what was those pieces that started moving us the needle into the right direction there?
Well, I think the funny thing was we came out of spring training, and I think we were all overly impressed by the bats. Everybody was hitting everything, and most guys were way overperforming, even based on spring training numbers. And then you expect a little cool down, and I think they just sort of stayed cool. We started to see a little bit better and more depth into our starting pitching, getting a little farther into the games, as arms get warmer. They were tinkering a lot with a couple of different positions. Santander was going back and forth between, being hurt and not being hurt. And there's a few other guys that were sort of feeling the early, stages of the season injuries and woes. But I felt like things kind of leveled off. And when they did, we really started to see what we would end up seeing, in the latter part of the year. And I can remember a few episodes, sort of at the start of the year where we kind of joked about, it's too bad we just can't catch lightning in a bottle, and take that right through to the end of and when I look back at sort of that second part of the season, and then I look at sort of how September, the August wasn't great, but then how September, that's what happened. They flipped that switch and they were just able to put the pedal down and continue to play baseball. The only thing I could the two things I could compare it to, and that would be the UNLV Running Rebels from the 80s, the basketball team, where they didn't care how many baskets you got, they were going to outscore you. They were just going to run the floor and outscore you. Or in comparison, the Oilers of the 80s, again, who left Grant Fuhr back there to die every single night, and they'd score 8 or 9, and it didn't matter. They just win. So that's what the Jays started doing, was they started being like, we've got enough to win every game, whether it's long balls or grinding. And I mean, I think that served them really well down into the end of the season. Like, if there is an MVP from this season for the Jays that turned this whole season around and turned it into what it is, it's George Springer. And I would challenge anyone to argue me on that. He was the absolute rudder all year long. I mean, the guy. And now I have to not only comment, because I'm not in Toronto, so I don't see this as much, but I have to comment to the fact that the city of Toronto recognized this and has had him everywhere. He's
everywhere right now.
He's everywhere right now. And I mean, what's he got? One more year on his deal, and he'll more than likely ride off into the sunset, or the Jays will give him a sweetheart for one more year or something after that.